Well, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks Ben for being here as well.
Yes.
This is an exciting one. I feel like after getting to know you several weeks ago at a dinner that was up in Salt Lake, I was like, this guy's story is wild. And you could probably go on for hours with some of the stories.
I do have a lot of experiences.
I feel like I just tapped into a little bit of your life, and I was like, man, this guy.
We had a good time at dinner.
If there were branding for the most mysterious guy on earth, like I feel like you'd be in competition for that.
I don't know. I feel like I'm just the guy that wanders around getting in adventures. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just cool stuff happens.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, we'll get into maybe a couple of those, but no, we're excited to have Ben, CEO and co-founder at JobNimbus.
Yep.
We'll get into what JobNimbus is and what you guys do and what you're all about. But before we do that, take a minute and tell us about yourself, where you're from.
I grew up in the Seattle, Washington area. I went to the University of Washington. I got a degree in business administration and a second degree in computer science. So I've been a coder. I sort of think of myself as a coder, even though I don't code a lot right now, and a business guy. And started my first company right out of college. Thought of the idea in my entrepreneur class, actually.
Oh, cool.
At University of Washington.
That was going to be my question is like, when did you decide you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Well, this is like a really important thing for me. So here I am. My dad worked for the same company for like 35 years. He's a sales guy. He's an incredible salesperson. He's now retired. But he was always number one. So I thought, well, I don't know what I want to do, but I love business, so I'll go get a business degree. I love management. I love leadership, that type of thing. So I'll focus on that. And as I'm in school, I'm thinking, I'm just going to work for the same company probably for many years. I'll be an awesome employee. And one of my professors, Professor Alan Leong, he was watching me in class one day, and he came up afterwards and said, Ben, you're the most fidgety person in this class. And I said, I got to be honest, the information flow is slow. Like, I could go faster, man. You're kind of boring me. It's like, I love your stuff, but it's going slow, And he said, have you ever, you have so many, like, you're kind of rebellious. You have all these little personality things. Like, would you consider entrepreneurship? And I said, no, I've probably never thought about that. And he said, well, I'm doing an entrepreneur class next semester, and I want to invite you to it. Oh, sure, I'll give it a shot.
Right after you told him that he was teaching you.
Yes, because he said
way.
it will go faster. You won't be able to keep up. And I said, ooh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted, And so I went to that class, and we sat down the first week. This is a funny thing. He says, okay, we need everybody to write a business plan, come up with a business idea and write a business plan. And I'm like, in my 3.5 years into school, and I'm going, wait, they never taught us how to make a business plan. It's funny, you go to a business degree, they teach you how to be a good middle manager in corporate America, not how to like actually build a business, right? And so it was very formative. So I later, we go through that whole thing, come up with the idea. We end up winning the UW business plan competition. There's like a whole fun story there too, but we get to the point where we actually win this competition, and we win $50,000, this was like 1998 or something like that. It was a lot of money for us.
And how old were
kids.
you at the time? You were probably...
I was, let's see, I was probably 20.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, especially for us college kids that have no money. So we said, great, and they said, go pick up the check over at this station for your winnings. We actually took third in the overall competition, first in a couple other things. So we go to pick up the check, and they said, oh no, this is not cash, guys. This is $50,000 with the top legal firm in Seattle. And I'm like, what? Okay, there's always strings attached to all this stuff, right? So we go over to Wilson Sonsini, is like topper, it's like $1,500 an hour for, to work with the lawyers there. And we say, what can $50,000 buy us here? And they said, we can probably get you incorporated and get one patent done.
That's it.
And so we did that. That one patent, though, combined with several others, became the core of Vinify, my first company.
Really?
Yeah, that idea. So it really set us off for the thing. What was so cool about Alan is that he saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself, and he unlocked it. Yeah. And I really believe that I live to transform things, transform markets, transform businesses, and transform people. And I try to pay on what Alan did for me all around me every day, like, who can I unlock? Who can I make? Because I'll tell you, I feel more like myself every day being an entrepreneur. And I'm doing exactly what I was born to do. And I'm so thankful for Alan for seeing that in me, because I'm not sure I would have found it as in the timeline that I did.
Totally. That's life-changing.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he invited you to that class.
I think a lot of people have mentors like this that unlock them in certain ways.
Yeah, that's so cool. Let's talk about Benify. I mean, what a roller coaster. I mean, you know, and I am not educated in this space, but encryption management, does that sound right? So this was a space that didn't exist, right?
Correct.
Where did that idea, you know, like, how did you scale that when it was nowhere to be found? Okay,
so I was reading in one of my classes about how encryption was working, and I got really excited about that. And so I was messing around with a bunch of encryption algorithms at school. And then I saw how they were doing SSL. So if you're in a browser and you see the little padlock, there's this thing called secure socket layer that's like causing the encryption to happen between that. I'm trying to keep it not too technical here. But that is a really screwy system for how that worked in 1995, 96, whatever. So I said, I can't believe that's how we implemented that. That's so stupid. Why wouldn't we automate this? That was the thinking I had. See, you know what's nice about being an entrepreneur and not knowing a lot about your market is that you're not smart enough to know that your question's dumb, and maybe your question isn't dumb.
Right.
Because that's what happened.
Yeah.
My question hadn't been asked by all of these great industry people, like, this is just the way we do it. Here comes this kid that goes, this is dumb. Why wouldn't we do it differently? Nobody had thought of that in that way.
Yeah.
And so, okay, here's how the story goes. I meet up with a guy who's at Verizon Wireless at the time in their security team, and he said, hey, we just had an SSL problem, and it cost us a lot of money. And so he introduced me to several people. I showed him the prototype we were working on. It was me and my partner, Russ Thornton, at the time. He was my partner at school, and we ended up becoming business partners. And they were really interested. So we got a meeting with the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer of Verizon. And I flew over there, and I have this like prototype. It's not even a product yet, but it does work, but it's pretty hacky, you know? And what it did is it automated the rekeying of certificates so that you would never have your SSL go down. And at the time, I was trying to think of a name for it, and I was like, well, you're kind of managing encryption. We'll call it encryption management. And I put that in the patent. There's now over 100 companies that do encryption management.
Right.
We coined the term, you know?
Yeah.
Just off of a total luck thing. So here we go. We sit in the meeting. I'm with the CTO. I show him everything. I know my stuff. I coded it myself. And he says, I love this. We want it. And he said, how much? And this is embarrassing. We had not thought about pricing because we were like pre-anything, you know?
And you're not talking to some small SMB. You're talking to Verizon.
Big guy. I'd never been in a C-suite before. I was 21 years old or something, you know, at the time. So I said, okay, well, Russ and I had talked about maybe charging like $20,000, $30,000 a year for this. I should shoot higher. I'm just going to go big. These guys are big. I'm going to put a number out because I know he's going to pull me down from there. And if we get to 50,000, I'll be so happy. So I threw out 500,000. And he said, done. And I was like, dang it. I went too low. It sucks.
I'm just imagining in this room, like, is that literally what it was like? You just threw out his number and he said, deal.
Yeah.
What do I sign?
I later found out they lost like $2 million over their last security problem they had with SSL. And so it was chump change to pay us $500,000 to get this solved long term.
Yeah, that was pennies on the dollar.
So then he said, okay, great, but there's going to be a string attached, Ben. Like I said, there's always string attached. You have to get this thing running in our environment within 60 days. And so I literally just lived in a Motel 6 down there at their headquarters and went into their server room every day with like a parka on because it was so freezing. I sat in a little chair in the server room, hooked to their servers, trying to get everything to run. And we literally got it running on the 59th day. Finally, it was all verified and we got paid. What's so funny is during that year and a half of that whole journey of trying to get that, I had been raising money. I'd talked to every VC in the Bay Area. I'd been out to San Francisco many times, same with Russ. Yeah. And we had a lot of this kind of thing. Like, very interesting. We'll keep in touch with you guys.
But they just don't understand it. It's probably a space that
security software wasn't a big thing,
Yeah.
but also we were pre-revenue, so it didn't sound legit. They're like, I don't get it, I don't know the market, and I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
So after we closed the deal with Verizon, I got calls and we got term sheets from, I think, 4 or 5 people within a week. Mm-hmm. And we ended up raising $5.5 million and launching Vinify from there.
Boom.
Yeah, it was a whole different ball game at that point.
So fast forward, I mean, you end up you're there for some time. I believe you leave in 2006 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
You know, but I mean, over the span of 20 years, company Vinify sold in 2020 for 1.2 billion.
Yep.
What is that like? You know, having been part of a company that scales to $1 billion company.
I mean, it's kind of crazy because you think about the value creation of during that time. You know, part of me wonders if we could have done it faster too, because it took 20 years. But I will tell you that everything that you think in business, however long it's going to take, multiply it by 2 or 3, and that's probably reality. You know. And you're always trying to speed things up, but everything takes longer.
Yeah.
And the truth is, really great companies that everybody, you know, like somebody told me the other day, like, JobNimbus just seems like an overnight success. And I'm going, okay, we've been doing this for 11 years, you know, not overnight. But from the outside, you just hit an inflection curve where everybody like, man, everything's going great. Yeah. But it was a lot of little decisions and optimizations.
Lots of changes.
And decisions. It's usually not one big monumental thing that gets you there. It's all the little moves that you make, and it's really about resiliency along the way. And that's the story of Vinify. It was resiliency, ups and downs on the market, and we kept plugging away, kept building it. It's a big problem and expanding more and more, and then finally the value is just off the charts.
Yeah. I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about JobNimbus, but the in-between, just got to touch on this. So you leave Vinify, and then you go into, I can't even remember, what was the name of the company in entertainment, music? Soundcrank.
Yeah.
What, I mean, encryption management to this.
Yes.
I mean, that is.
I mean, there was 2 companies in between, but
okay.
Yes, but it's like, huh?
Well, you are a serial entrepreneur, so I imagine there was several.
Yeah, JobNimbus is the 10th company I've done, but I'm 48 years old, so that means some of these didn't work out. Okay, some were big successes like Vinify, but other ones didn't. So Soundcrank, the whole thing was, do you remember the old iPod with the scroll wheel, like the early days of that?
And even the one that you like was a big USB that you wore a necklace and you'd hang it around your neck.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was listening to my iPod plugged into with a little cassette player, plugged into my car, driving to work, and I had this idea. I was thinking, like, I love this song, but I don't know who the band is. I don't know like the album artwork. I don't really know anything about the album. I realized that we sort of like lost something going digital. We're starting to get some of it back, but the idea of like, would you go in and buy an album and you would have like the artwork and you experience the whole like album.
You flip it over.
And I was listening to singles at that point. So I thought, oh, there's like this opportunity. And it got me really, I love music. I am a musician myself. I've played in a lot of bands. I still put out new music about every month, put out a new song on Spotify and Apple Music. And just write music. I love it. I play a lot of instruments. And so I played in a band in college, and we had a record label, and I knew a lot of the venues in Seattle. I mean, Seattle's a cool spot for music back then. So I was like, I want to go do this as my next business. And we ended up raising $10 million, and I don't know if I should get into this whole story, but oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was just reading a little bit online about it, and it was pretty wild. But I mean, I just wanted to understand, I mean, that journey from, again, encryption management to music is so different.
Well,
but again,
I will tell you, security software got a little boring for me because nobody wanted to innovate enough. I kept coming up with ideas of how we could do things better, and everybody kept telling me, no, we don't do it that way. And I was like, man, I don't really like this industry that much.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do something different. But here's the thing. Every business I've done, I had to find a problem that was really interesting to me, and I had to sort of get obsessed with that. And that's the same with JobNimbus. Like, you just get obsessed with the problem to the point where it's all you can think about. And then you look at the market and say, this market is actually pretty big. So it's like a simple total addressable market analysis with, is the problem and pain high enough? And is it monetizable? well, then that's probably my next business. And it didn't really matter what it was, as long as those things were true, I was going to go after it as hard as I could.
Yeah. And so let's do that. Let's focus on JobNimbus. I mean, where was the issue? Where was the problem you saw?
Yep.
And then what's the journey of scaling like from there?
Yep. So we met up with some guys that were doing roofing, and I'm a software guy. Every single one of my businesses has been a software company. And so I don't know that much about construction or contracting. I worked for a landscaper in college, and I just remember going, well, this company's run really poorly.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just go dig a hole over here because that's what they told me to do. I mean, I'm a college
Right.
kid. I don't care.
Yeah.
When's our time off? I'm out of here. You know? I hated it, but I didn't understand the whole market or anything. So we meet these roofers, and they said, hey, the software in roofing sucks, because they knew I was a software guy. And I said, oh, really? Show me on your phone. Like, show me the app. Oh, there's no app. This is 2012. There's no app? No. Well, what about on your computer? Do you have software? You said it sucks. Yeah, I can use it on my computer, but only if I'm in the office. Wait, aren't you driving around in your truck all day? Yeah. So how did that work? Well, it doesn't. I have to go back to my office at the end of the day and type in all my notes.
Try to remember them.
That's absurd. That's how it's working. It's kind of like Venify. Wait, that's how that's working? Like, that's unacceptable. That's what my brain kept thinking. Like,
Yeah.
huh? I later realized that the smartest people in America in tech were trying to figure out how to make Twitter run faster in 2012. It's kind of embarrassing. But they weren't trying to work on these awesome blue-collar people and make their problems better. And it's funny because those people are in a lot of ways the people that make the country work, and they were the forgotten man in tech. And so we sort of made it our mission. In fact, our mission at JobNimbus is make contractors heroes.
Yeah.
Like, how can we transform their lives and make them the best contractor somebody ever worked with, help them grow a really profitable business?
So, for anybody listening, what is it that JobNimbus is doing for, say, a roofing company?
Yeah, we're number one in roofing. That's really what we focus on. We have some other contractors in.
It's probably a lot of home service businesses.
Home services on the outside of the house. So
Exterior.
Think home
Okay,
exteriors.
home exteriors.
So think residential, think gutters, siding, windows and doors, solar, roofing. Roofing being our bread and butter there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And-
Because there are a lot of companies out there. I mean, what's the Titan?
Service Titan.
Service Titan.
Yeah, they're HVAC, electrical,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
best in the business.
So it
with
seems
that.
like that space is definitely over the last decade really gotten better with apps and technology and software that helps. But what is JobNimbus doing
Yeah, this is
differently?
2012. They weren't in anything back then too. But yes, you're exactly right. It's gotten a lot better since then.
So what are you guys doing differently and doing better than a lot of the other
So
competitors?
we make an end-to-end business management solution. So you're a roofer, you get on JobNimbus, your leads go in automatically. You do your estimating inside of JobNimbus. You get signed contract. It's all digital, super. It makes you look so pro. There's an amazing proposal. You can do it on your iPad. You close the deal. We have a full calendaring system, so you schedule out your crews and your subcontractors in there. You go and order materials automatically through JobNimbus. So we have integrations with all the distributors. And then you actually close out the job and invoice through JobNimbus and collect payment. You don't
it's
need
everything.
to use any other system.
It's the whole journey.
App that they use to run their whole business.
Wow.
Average customer will grow 43% in revenue in the first 12 months with us. So if you're a $2 million roofer, you're going to be a $3 million roofer just joining up with JobNimbus.
Oh, that's
It is
cool.
rocket fuel for their business. And the best thing is, every customer they have, they get way more 5-star reviews, and customers go, that was the best contractor I ever worked with. Because that's the big problem. Most people don't love their contractor. They're like, this guy pissed me off.
Well, you go and look
we
at the
fix
reviews
that.
for any contractor, and it's just the stories of, unfortunately, half the time it's probably out of the contractor's control, and then the owners are pissed off because their job didn't get done on time, and contractors doing their best. And then
Maybe only
people
lawyers are hated more in the U.S. right now. And we're going to fix that problem. We're the company that's going to change that, because those people are awesome. We love our customers, and they deserve to be seen as the heroes that we think they are.
What do you see happening in this industry over the next decade? I mean, this contractors aren't going anywhere. I mean, as houses get bigger and more extravagant, I was just at the Parade of Homes yesterday, and some of those homes are wild.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you see software continuing to take it to the next level, and what are you guys doing there?
Yeah, we have a lot of big plans over the next 10 years of how we can fundamentally change the way contractors do business. The truth is that they need to be able to do more with less, and so using AI and some other technologies that we're working on to literally automate the business in a meaningful way so that they can scale to higher profit with less people. That's really how you enable and unlock them. and make sure we get those awesome reviews. In the overall industry, there's going to be a big technology adoption. Like 70% of roofers in America right now still use pen and paper to run the business.
Wow.
Wild. So that tells you they're maybe 10 years behind the rest of the world. So it's not going to be earth-shattering in the sense of like maybe some of the cutting-edge industries are doing. It's going to be getting them caught up to where we are in the world right now.
Yeah.
Over the next 10 years.
And you guys recently just acquired a Sumo Quote. Is that?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that what the name of the company is?
Yeah.
Talk
Best
about that.
estimating software in our industry. Our estimating tool is okay. Theirs is like extraordinary.
Yeah.
So we acquired them. It's about 35 employees that we took on. Great culture match. We now have an office in Calgary, Alberta, because that was their headquarters. Same time zone, super easy.
Yeah.
And we've integrated in their product, and now we have the best estimating solution in the market. So I think about acquisitions as like the best ones are team and product buys. Like if you can buy a part of the product that you don't have a good enough area in, and that it will take you a long time to build, and you can buy it for the right price and tuck it in, those almost always are very accretive. The ones that are tough are competitive buys. Because when you buy a competitor, the problem is you have two people trying to go after the same customers, and you have to kill one of the products. So you buy this product for a lot of money, and you have to figure out how to kill it, but try to retain the revenue. And this is why so many competitive buys fail. They fail at a really high rate. It's possible to do it, but the team and product buys fail. It's like an 87% success rate.
Yeah. Does JobNimbus plan at all in the future to scale to larger, general contractors? Is that in the vision at all?
Yeah, we have like a plan. That's why we call it making contractors heroes, because we're not just like, we're very focused. I will tell you a secret of running a business that scales and grows really big is being very niche. I know it's very maybe non-intuitive for the average entrepreneur to go, wait, I want to limit my market. But by being the best at certain niches, nobody can touch you. You're unkillable. And you scale and you get more market share, and you refine more value out of those markets. So I'm really big on like, let's nail it, then scale it. So it's beachhead. So, nail roofing. We've got several other markets we're working on right now. We can just keep knocking those out. But there's also an international play that we're pretty excited about down the road too.
That's exciting. Talk about culture for a second. The coolest experience, I feel like, just a moment I had, when you and I were chatting several weeks ago, was I have a close friend that I served an LDS mission with in Florida, who is a programmer, or I can't remember for you guys. Lives out in Florida. Probably doesn't interact with
developer.
you.
Yeah,
he's a developer for you guys.
Jerem,
Jerem, and you knew him right off the bat, and that just impressed me because I mean, you guys are a pretty large company at this point.
Yeah, we got almost 300 people.
You got people all over the place, and you knew Jerem right away. I mean, how important is it to you to know your employees and know what's important to them?
It's really important. It matters a lot. It is a little weird. I'm just some guy that's doing my thing. I don't think of myself as like, as soon as you have some success, everybody thinks you know a bunch of stuff, and you probably do. You have a lot of experience, but you don't like have the secrets of the universe unlocked, But like the other day I was talking to an employee, and it was one of our tech support people for a little bit, and everybody's a person. Everybody has value there. Everybody's I think of them all as a team of heroes. They all got superpowers that we need that overcome the big problem, And then I heard somebody else say later, like, hey, she really appreciated you spending time with her. She thought that was so cool. And I'm thinking, she's a person like everybody else. That's the first secret of culture, is never believe you're better than anybody else and treat everybody like a human being. We're really big on that. And one of the ways we do that is that our people experience team is not called our HR or human resources team. First usage of HR, human resources, is in the book 1984 by George Orwell. People are resources to be used and disposed of. Bizarre that corporate America took that over and decided to make that their core thing. That tells you a lot. We do not do that at JobNimbus. We have the people experience team. We are real people on an experience here. So we're culture first type of organization.
Love that. Talk about, what you guys do to maintain, as you scale and get larger and larger, and you even talk about going international, what do you do to keep departments, really well connected? Because as a company grows, oftentimes a lot of companies go through stress with growth that is associated with teams that just don't interact with each other.
Yep.
And that causes logistical challenges with operations. How do you keep everything smooth and keep that ship in the same direction?
That's always a challenge, man. The more you scale, the more likely you are to have politics get into the company, and You get siloed, walled gardens where people are trying to do, you get subcultures. There's all kinds of weird things that can happen. One of the things that we do is we're really, really big on the mission and the values, and we test for values. If you're trying to interview at JobNimbus, you're going to have a full values test. You may not even know what's happening, and you're going to get scored on that. And if you don't have our values at a really high level, you can't even get in the organization, because it's a major hassle to deal with somebody that doesn't have our values.
Yeah.
They're just not aligned. Like, we got people from every color, every race, every gender. It doesn't matter. But we're all aligned on the mission, and we all have the same values. That's the only thing that really unites us at JobNimbus.
Yeah.
So it's critical that you don't get in here without believing the mission and having our values. The other thing we do is we reinforce those all the time. One example is we do a weekly all hands, still at our scale. A lot of people are surprised by this. I'm a big fan of it. It's 30 minutes. It's super tight. We start out, we give key numbers of the company for the week. I don't care. Now that I've done this, I wish I would have done this in all my companies, even when we had 3 employees. Because everybody knows all the core unit economics of JobNimbus on a weekly basis. We're very transparent.
Yeah.
And, you know our revenue, you know where our retention rate is, everything like that. And then we do some quick announcements, and then we have a topic. And we rotate topics every week. They're monthly topics. One topic is product. Product team gets up there and shows the new things we built, and everybody in the company understands what's coming out and when and what we're working on. Keeps a lot of accountability, by the way, to your product team. Better make sure you hit your deadlines, because we got people waiting on
it now.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Next week is customer stories. We have either customers locally will come in our office and tell a story about how we impacted them, or we have case studies, or we have them on video. It's so cool to hear, like, yeah, I was stuck at $2 million for 3 years straight in my roofing business, and you guys, I'm at $6 million now. I've been able to hire 7 people. I have time to help coach my kids' sports game. I bought that duck hunting side by side I always wanted to have. Like, everybody in the room's going, my job has meaning. My job has purpose. I love this job because I'm actually making a difference in real people, and I get to see that difference. Yeah. So we rotate through these types of topics every month. And I think it causes a lot of alignment between departments, because nobody's confused on what we're trying to accomplish. We hear the goals every week.
I love that. There's a lot of companies that I think could use that lesson. So kind of stepping back on a more macro level here, before we get to to Q&A here in a bit, let's talk about the Utah entrepreneur and startup atmosphere. What is it doing well, and where do you see it lacking? And what do you think entrepreneurs, what advice do you have for them as they scale?
Utah's a really special state. I've lived here for over 13 years now. It's definitely home for me. I love the people here. Super hardworking, very, very motivated, go-getter type people. It's a huge asset of Utah. It's why it's the fastest growing state. It's why every single private equity and VC hangs out in the Silicon Slopes area more than ever before. I mean, it's just like they're here all the time. It's crazy. And a lot of the who's who of the companies everybody's watching in the U.S. are coming out of Utah right now. It's awesome. So that's the benefits. Like, we have an amazing culture, work ethic here, like a performance-based culture where, like, I want to make impact. I want to create value.
Right.
The thing I'm worried about is the short-term thinking in a lot of the businesses right now. I'm just trying to run off funding. That's always worrisome to me. Funding makes a lot of sense, but if you don't have a path to profitability, you're not running a real business yet. Okay. And then the second thing is the short-term thinking of, like, how can I get this thing flipped or sold in a couple years? In my opinion, like, as a founder, you create this thing. It's like your baby. You care so much about it. You grow it up like your kid, your toddler. Like, this matters massively to you. And then you're trying to sell it off to somebody else to take care of that kid. There's always a reason to do these things. And I've sold businesses, and there's things that make sense. But the thinking, I don't care if you're trying to do that or not, your thinking should be, how do I build a durable business? How do I build something that lasts 10, 20, 30 years? That's the decisions you're making, even if you are going to flip it in 2 or 3 years.
Don't stop trying to build an exit.
Yep.
Right. And with all the experience you have with, hiring co-founders and leadership for a lot of these companies you've been involved with, what advice do you have for startup companies that are, especially guys that, and girls that are bootstrapping these companies that are hiring maybe their first key team member?
Yep.
What do you see in companies that have great leadership? What qualities do they have?
One of the things that I wish I would have learned early on, and I'll answer this by way of mistakes I've made, is, especially early, a couple first companies, you have somebody come to you, incredible experience, 20 years of experience doing this and that, but had played at a scale that was not even close to where, maybe you were 5 employees or 10 employees, and they had a team of 30 people, and they were at a 2,000 person company. And the pedigree looks massively good. And so I would hire them going, oh my gosh. And never once did those guys work out. Never once. Right. Because they don't know how to do the 0 to 1 game. They know how to take 1 to 10 or something like that. And that's a different thing. When you have resources and you know how to align them to get scale, that's a different problem. When I have no resources, I got to do more with less. How do I figure this out? So I'd actually instead look for people who is really good at figuring things out, who knows how to learn, who's very data driven, who's very testing, experimental type mentality. And I would even test for this in my interviews. I would actually look for coachability, because now everybody's going to go, oh, come on, Ben. But I'm telling you, this works. I'll tell you a little secret. Go in and ask them to do a role play with you. Like, let's say you're hiring a sales leader, okay? Ask them to do a role play with you, and they'll go like, what the hell? No, we're going to do a role play. And it's going to be easy, and I'll make it easy on you. You're going to sell me on JobNimbus or whatever, okay? I'll give you a little bit of information, and I'll be the homeowner. And I just let's do it for 2 minutes, and you walk through the role play. Yeah. And it's a little awkward and a little weird, and you just move through it. And then at the end, here's the second secret. Give them a compliment. Because they're nervous in an interview, and they'll do stupid stuff if you don't give them a compliment. So give them a compliment that says, like, something that they did right. Yeah. Even if they did really crummy, find something. Like, I really liked how you asked more questions there, or something like that. Okay, good. Oh, good. I must have been doing a good job. I want to do the role play again, but this time, and then give them specific direction on what you want them to do different. This time on the role play, I want you to change this. I want you to focus more on asking me more questions about the value. Redo it. You'll be shocked at the number of people that don't do anything different, that do it exactly the same as before. You do not want to work with those people. Run, okay? They're the worst because they're not self-aware. They couldn't understand and take coaching. But the people that will change, or change drastically, or nail it, oh man, look at what you did in 5 minutes with them coaching. Think of what you can do in 3 months or a year. Those people are gold. And so that's what I really look for, especially in startups, as that mentality.
That's cool. I'm going to have to call my buddy Jerem and ask him how that experience was.
Exactly.
No, this is great. Well, I'd love to open it up to the audience for any questions.
I've talked to a lot of contractors who have used Angie's List.
Yeah.
And they've usually have pretty bad things to say about it.
Yep.
But Angie's is still, a billion-dollar company. And so there's a signal that there's a real problem there with getting leads. And so I'm just curious if JobNimbus has any interest in playing in that space of lead generation for these contractors.
Yeah, I mean, it's spot on. We are partners with Angie, and you can buy Angie's leads, and they go straight into JobNimbus, and it'll work them through the sales funnel and that sort of thing. But customers say the same thing, like, I hate these leads. Part of it is they're not good at follow-up. So that's the first thing, is make sure that your follow-up's all set up right in JobNimbus, and then the Angie's leads do perform better. But they're still not great, and there's usually not enough of them. And so what we did is we acquired a company about 1.5 years ago called Roofer Marketers, the best marketing company for roofers. You can tell in their name. No, they're a really good company. And we integrated that into our product. So now if you use JobNimbus, you also can use Roofer Marketers, and it will we'll run your website for you, all your ad spend, and we'll generate leads for you that go straight into JobNimbus. And so that's like, we're just getting into this game, but you're right, it's a big problem, and I don't even think we're solving probably 1/10 of what we could long term with it.
How often do contractors take advantage of that resource?
Well, we've just acquired it, so say like 10% of our customer base is using Roofer Marketers or less. So it's still early stage, but we more than doubled the business in 12 months, so it's on a good growth curve right now. We see big things out in the out years.
And then last question, if you don't mind, if you talked about some of the opportunities specifically with roofers, and that only 70% of them aren't using a CRM or an app. If you were to start a company in the trades today, starting from zero, would you still go after the same market, or would you do something different?
Well, there's some interesting things about roofing that made it really attractive. One thing is we're in repair and remodel on roofing, not new construction, because new construction roofing, like if the economy goes down, new construction collapses. So I would say if I was starting over today and I didn't know anything, first thing I would do is not go to new construction because my business would be so cyclical. But there's way more existing homes that get repaired and remodeled than there are new construction homes. And so when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, investors, if you're trying to get investors, they want resiliency in the business. So having a business like JobNimbus that, hey, if your roof leaks, you get it repaired no matter what the economy is. During COVID, roofing was still humming, you know? During 2008, or like roofing was still humming. So I like that about roofing. Then I would look at the number of contractors in that space. Because you could say like, well, I really want to go after pools. I have a passion for pools. You could probably build an okay business off that, but it's about a $25 million total addressable market right now. There's not that many pool companies. So it's like, well, that's your tap out. You're going to have to add another market if you want to grow past 25 million annual recurring revenue. So you think about like what size of market would I only have to get about 20% in over a 5 to 10 year period and still be successful? Because that's a doable strategy. So that's why roofing is very attractive, because it fits all those things. There's actually quite a few other markets that we're pretty excited about that fit that too, that nobody's even servicing yet.
Hey, Ben.
Hey.
Thanks for coming today.
Yeah.
This is either a one or a two-part question.
Okay.
So you got out of JobNimbus after roughly 5 years, so 2005-ish?
Oh, so it's Venify, but yes.
Venify, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, you're still involved with JobNimbus.
Yeah.
Thank you. Were you still involved as a shareholder when Tom Bravo got involved?
Yes.
And if so, can you talk about that experience of selling the company to a private equity firm and how that was for you and for the remainder of the executive management team that you can talk about?
Yeah. And I'll hit that one at high level, and I'll talk about JobNimbus because we also raised private equity, and that's a more recent one that's probably even more relevant. So with Venify, is on the board and, through a lot of that. And then after a while, I was just a shareholder. I had brought in some friends and family into that company, and I had promised them, I won't make any money until you make money. And so when we exited it, everybody got a check, I stayed until the very end. Actually, my founding partner exited much earlier. But there was a lot of dilution along the way too. So yeah, founder of a $1 billion company that raised a lot of money and a lot of stock splits and a lot of dilution is not as much money as you might think in a $1 billion exit. That was my experience with that one, but I really was just a shareholder at that point. In the case of JobNimbus, we bootstrapped it to 10 million in annual recurring revenue. And then in 2020, we decided we wanted to raise money. By the way, the secret to raise money when you have a growth story, not when you need it to run the business. Because when you need it to run the business, like in one case, I raised $2 million and it was early stage, we were pre-revenue, and I went from 51% ownership to 8% ownership. And that's not abnormal to have that happen, So that kind of gives you an idea. And then you don't have any control of your destiny or the mission of the company you're just a cog in the machine in some ways. It's still doable. You can still make a lot of money. But if you were willing to bootstrap and get to revenue and have a growth story like JobNimbus did, we were doubling the company that year. We were profitable. Then we were able to raise $53 million, and our investor took a minority position. And that's the difference, right? And JobNimbus was worth more than $100 million. We're able to raise $53 million and still have a minority investor and still, as founders, own the majority of the company.
But you now have access to capital to do acquisitions.
Correct. So suddenly we have all this money on the balance sheet.
Right.
And in the case of private equity, a lot of times these days, they'll actually offer secondary capital, as they call it, where the founder can take liquidity. So at that $53 million, some of that went to the balance sheet, some of that went to shareholders. And because they got to buy in the company somehow. So it's actually a great way. If I knew what I know now 10 years ago, I would have played this game, or say 15 years ago, all the time. Every 5 years, bring in a new investor, recapitalize the company, take more liquidity, and keep going, and I'd be worth about 5 times what I'm worth right now. And it's still good, but it could have gone to a whole nother level. So that's my advice, is to play that game. Grow the company really rapidly, try to get the investor their return, and make sure you're on a growth curve. Doing it profitably is ideal for a private equity firm. And then go and take liquidity every 3 to 5 years.
Question, Ben. So you said you were like, when you were starting Vidify, like 21, meeting with VCs, get your meeting with Verizon. Like, how the heck did you know to even go that route and like start a company, scale a company? Like, you were 21, still not even out of college. I'm just curious, like, did you have a mentor? Like, how did you do it?
Yeah, we had mentors along the way. I really recommend that. You know, we found a couple of people that were successful business owners that had exited and knew the game, and so paid them as advisors. Created a little board of advisors for me. That helped a lot in advising me. My professor, Alan Leong, a longtime entrepreneur, actually was an advisor too. And he and I have stayed in touch the whole time. He unfortunately passed away last October from cancer, but even till the last couple weeks of his life, we were chatting and talking, and he was just so proud of everything that we'd done. It was super cool, and I just told him, Alan, you made such an impact on my life. Thank you. It meant a lot, right? So having those advisors was really important. You don't know anything when you're doing that, but honestly, the best way to learn is just to get in there hands-on. So I knew that we wanted to raise money, and so I would just go start talking to venture capital. Start talking to the associates that are calling you or that you can get a hold of. Anybody in the organization. Understand what's the deck. You go and run a deck, and they'd say, this is the worst pitch deck in the world. And you go, okay, I'm going to refine this. And they ask that question. Every time they keep asking this question about competition, I should have a really strong story on that. And you sort of build it out. And it was like a 3-year refining process to get that really dialed in. But the real thing, it wasn't my pitching or my deck or my knowledge that got us the funding. It was getting a deal closed with somebody and actually having revenue that validated the product. That's all they needed to know. And then we were off to the races. So in the end, that's really the most important thing, is getting to revenue if you can on your own.
So it looks like you're a musician, an artist, an author, all these things. How has that helped you, like, business-wise?
It has a lot. Actually, our Making Contractors Heroes idea came from me writing so many stories about heroes and thinking about the hero's journey, which is the core of our culture and our mission and that sort of thing. But I believe, like, business, especially entrepreneurship, is a massively creative endeavor. That's why I love it. Every day there are problems. JobNimbus is doing really well. There's always something blowing up, and I love it because it's always a new problem to try to figure out and get creative and try to solve. And that's happening constantly all the time in my life. And creativity is one of those ways to refine that. And it's funny how many times I've written a song or wrote something or whatever, or like when we were making a movie. Like I made a short film and we won the Houston International Film Festival, and having to solve the problems on the set and figure those things out. And those things that we figured out during that time, or maybe how we managed a cost structure or whatever, those like same ideas will pop into my head as I'm trying to make a business decision. I'll say, wait, and what I found out later, there's a book, it's called Range. I don't remember the subtitle is, but I love this book because I thought it was the weird guy. In fact, people tell me all the time, you're kind of a weird guy, Ben. And I say, great, thanks. What they mean by that is you're doing a lot of things. Like, most people don't do this much stuff. And I think, well, that's just how I'm wired. But I realized from the book Range that actually this is a superpower. The more problems you get exposed to in different patterns, your brain takes those patterns and overlays them. So you can throw patterns and problems in front of me, and I'll have so much context, my brain will just go crazy coming up with ideas because I have so much range. And so I highly recommend entrepreneurs get a lot of range, because you are the best when you do that. Amazing.
So along that range there, how do you balance getting that range? Like, a lot of times salespeople, I'm a mile wide and I'm an inch deep, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you take that range but then channel that to that niche?
I think I am wired for experimentation and investigation. That's just how I've been since a little kid. Why does this thing work this way? And I want to go deep and figure it out. But then I don't just stay in that one thing. I go to the next thing and go deep on it. So it's less about just like cursorily bumping into something and more about understanding the fundamentals of it and then moving to the next thing, getting a working knowledge of that thing. So it's a little bit of like depth and then coming back out, I think. And so you say, like, well, how do you do that? Well, I will tell you, I'm a voracious reader. I'm a thinker. I'm constantly processing things. So I probably read, on average, about a book and a half a week. And how I do that, well, when I'm working out every morning for an hour, I'm listening to audiobook, usually at a higher speed. So I can get through about almost a third of a book that week. And then I'm reading every night for 30 minutes. And so the combination, yeah, I can cruise through about a book and a half a week. So I'm reading over 60 books a year, getting all this information. You know, you watch videos, you talk to others, like a lot of social interactions, you get a lot of information from that. You start building up this knowledge set, and I just get interested. Anything I'm curious in, I'm going to go read on it. Like I was like, oh, the other night, I don't know a lot about the French Revolution. So I bought a book on the French Revolution. I'm going deep on it. And I already had one idea from it that I used at JobNimbus the other day. So it's funny how, it was not a dictatorial idea, by the way.
I was about to ask.
Napoleon. It's about just building on building on building, but like actually committing to having that part of your life is that learning.
Awesome. They say some people are just built different. That is literally you. I mean, you were 20 years old closing deals with Verizon. When I was 20, I was coming home from class and playing with Legos. So, like,
Legos. Hey, Legos are great too.
And I still do. Well, hey, thanks for being in here, Ben, and thanks everyone for the good questions. If there's any last words you have, that you want to leave with us, what would that be?
I think I just want to reinforce the idea of the transformation. Like, entrepreneurs change things. They make the world a better place. I think it's one of the most honorable professions in the world, because it's one thing to go out and, work for somebody and create value for them, great. It's another thing to go out and maybe create a nonprofit and try to help in a small way or whatever. It's another thing to create something, because I believe in capitalism, that makes the world a better place, have people pay for that, and then create jobs. And you think about the number of families, like at JobNimbus, like almost 300 families rely on JobNimbus now. But then all of our customers, we should have 8,000 contractors using JobNimbus right now, and all of their customers. And you look at the ripple effects of it's like I'm making more impact in what I'm doing right now than anything else I could do in my life. I honor entrepreneurship, and I just encourage everybody to go out, stay resilient, and make it happen. You can change the world.
Yeah. Well, round of applause to that. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks.